I know the thinking, wagwan. Junior, come in, Paulette, Taja.
Oh, don't go. You never come back tonight. What's there to discover? Right here is the power. You really wanna know?
All right.
If you cross the line, there's no coming back. We don't give no slack. Step off, do it. Don't look back, do it. Get over it. Step off, do it. Don't look back, do it.
You're gonna have to fight for what you believe is right. Strength we have enough.
Good evening. We are the next generation
of the Mangrove 9.
and today we have some legendary guests, and if you don't know, you don't know. Going through the soul, neo soul, to every kind of element, jazz soul, any soul you want to know. And if you don't know who these legends are on today, they're going to tell you who they are themselves. And we always let them introduce themselves. So we're going to start off by letting Barrie Sharpe introduce himself. So Barrie, would you like to introduce yourself?
As you know, I'm Barrie Sharpe. I design clothes, make music, now write books, lecture at colleges, universities, and at the Royal College of Art when I can be bothered. And I make things genuinely.
I'm sure you're going to elaborate on that a bit later. Tell us a bit more about yourself. So next up we have Mr. Donny in the house. Long time, Donny.
Donny, singer-songwriter, producer from South London, son of a preacher man, signed to Island Records in 1992, done a bunch of stuff, touring with Grace Jones at the moment, and with the British Collective, and that's me, man, in a nutshell. Music, man.
Thank you for that, Donny. Also, I can say Donny's been in the Grove, so just associating it to the Grove for a very long time. We were signed to the same management. You forget about Ron Tom and all them. We're actually signed to the same management. Ron Tom's a big shout out to Ron Tom. And next, we're going to move over to Rosita. Rosita, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Rosita. I'm a singer-songwriter, filmmaker, restaurateur. My dad wasn't part of the Mangrove 9, but he was a part of the Mangrove Steel Band from the 60s, and he was a fantastic musician, steel pan player. Like I said, singer-songwriter, sang a lot in the 90s of MCD, who was a rapper from kind of Harrow Road area, and since then I've worked with people like Donny, Carl McIntosh, and a lot of UK soul.
Okay, thank you for that. And you also come from Ladbroke Grove, so big shout out. All these South Londoners on here, and East London, Barrie. We're from the Grove, right? So we have to keep chatting that out and making noise. We don't get enough shout outs in Grove. Yeah, so it's the South Londoners that take over and everything.
Southeast, but you know how it is.
So Junior, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Right, I'm Junior Giscombe. I've been making music since I pretty much from 14. Started out like most people, you do at church, and then my parents listened to jazz, and my dad was a jazz man. My mum was into gospel. My brothers and sisters, I'm the youngest of 8. My brothers and sisters were into soul, pop, reggae. So I came from a very eclectic home in terms of music. Don Reeves, as well, from going all the way back. And then I kind of put a band together when I was about 18 called Atlantis. We started doing tours and doing shows, and that kind of put me more into making music. By the time I got to around about early 20s, I did a record called Get Up and Dance, which was a hit in France. And then 2 years later, I did another one called Mama Used to Say, which was a huge hit around the world.
Big hit. We used to sing that when we were a little young. Mama used to say, take your time, young man.
So I did that, and you tour, and did Beverly Hill Cup. I wrote a song for Beverly Hill Cup that did really well, and won a Grammy for the album, and went on from there and did a couple more film things and writing for films, and then came out and started doing again my own junior thing, which was cool, and decided we'd get together as a British collective. The last 5 years, myself, Donny Omar, and Noel McCoy, and that kind of brings you up to date. Other than I have a new project coming out, which is my first album in a good few years, right? Which is Everything's Set, and that'll be out on the street, I think the end of April, but you can get it on my website. So things are going very well at the present moment in time.
Okay, so thank you for that, Junior. So you heard that. You can get his new, is it an album coming out in April, did you say?
Yeah, the album's out in April, but you can go up and you can get, if you like a pre-mix to the whole thing. The album's got 11 tracks, and then I've done a dub album, which is also only there for people who go to the website. So that's juniorgiscombe.co.uk. Okay. So you'll get something like 18, 20 tracks, right? Whereas if you just buy the album, you get the 11 tracks. So
that's juniorgiscombe.co.uk, did you say?
That's correct.
Okay, so check him out. For those who don't know, now you know. These are, big legends, going back to the 80s and all the way through, and still singing, still collaborating. They're all still working and doing their stuff. So definitely check them out. So now we're going to move over to my girl, Jamila, where she's going to start the first question. So Jamila, do you want to open this up now and just start to throw some questions at them?
Yes, lovely. You're all ready for me? No, I'm joking. Barrie, let's start with you, my dear. You said you're from is East London?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you? So, what's your background in terms of whereabouts in East London are you from?
Whitechapel.
Oh, probably.
I was actually born in Brick Lane.
Oh, was you?
Yeah.
I used to work in Whitechapel. I love Whitechapel and I love around that area. So what inspired you initially? Is it music first of all that inspired you?
Yeah. Well, in the kids' home, I spent a lot of times in the kids' home when I was young, and I was one of the naughty kids, so I was put with the black kids. We lived in cottages, like that. Nah, that's true story.
That's how they look at it. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and I actually lived in a cottage with 3 13-year-old girls. So I was 11, and they took me to a youth club. And I was into reggae, so I was skinny. The culture of skinheads is actually the first time black and white kids got together and became friends is through reggae and being skinheads. It's like West Indian style with British working class attitude. Mm-hmm. So they took me to this new club, and I had this track called "Getting the Good Foot" by James Brown. And I stopped. I was like, I'd never heard nothing like it. It's like a religious experience. It was brand new. And then they played "Make It Funky." My head was spinning. I'd arrived. This is it. This is my life from now on. And it turned my life around. Okay. If I didn't go to that youth club, I wouldn't be here now. I don't know, but that changed my life, and I kept on that road.
When did you first feel, or when did you recognise that you had a talent? But that's going to be universal for everyone.
I never recognised I had a talent. I fell uphill. I fell into everything. First of all, I became a DJ. Because there's a guy named, must have heard Trevor Shakes. He was the best DJ, the best dancer in the 70s. In his club in 1978, he started playing all the latest music, brilliant. Then he started playing a few old tracks, which was early 70s. And I've got all these records. I thought, this is better than the modern music. So this has got the seed in my head about the old records. In 1984, I hustled myself a job at the WAG Club, at the time of the trendiest club in the world. And I was a DJ, and I played all my old records. That's it. All I'd done was play my favourite records to a brand new audience, which were these funk records. I fell into it. I never intended to be a DJ. I never even dreamed of something like that. It just happened. So after a while, they called it Rare Groove, and all the other DJs started playing it. So we started a band with Dinah Brown the Brothers, which became the brand new Heavy's Young Disciples, and Dinah Brown and Barrie Sharpe. Jazz, that's where acid jazz started. That's the sound of acid jazz. The names are nothing to do with me or anybody around me, but we were the beginning of it all. That's it, my story. And also, at the same time, I started a fashion company called After St. George. God knows how that happened. Next year, I'm one of the world's top fashion designers. I just fell uphill. I'm just bluffing. I was bluffing then, I'm bluffing now. I went to get caught out. When people realise I do not know what I'm doing. Every morning I wake up and I've got a fresh idea.
Well, actually, it means that you're quite
Brilliant.
creative and a genius to make it happen, but you're just not
I
giving
know,
yourself
but
the credit
I'm
for it.
genius for
You
my
know, I'm
house.
just fluffing this, but really it's you're working with your creativity that's coming out in you.
I find it all so easy. That's why I don't take it. I don't think it's real because it's like in the
You're
last
naturally talented.
in the last 2 years, I've put out 4 vinyl albums. And I can record it. We recorded 2 of us, and we recorded, and plus Kenny Wellington from British Funk Association, and like the World and those bands.
Yeah.
We've done 4 albums, and each track is recorded in an hour. Admittedly, I might take forever mixing it. I mean, literally forever, because I can. But it just comes out, and I just find it so easy. That's why I don't take it. That's why I don't think it's. I don't know. It's just.
Just give yourself the credit for it. You're gifted. And you're
Exactly.
I love what I
some
do.
people just wake up as children and one day and they're just like, like your Michael Jackson.
I think what I do is brilliant because it's all about me. I'm self-indulgent.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised nobody else likes it.
Well, you're lucky to have that choice.
And I sell 500. I press 500 albums up and sell 500 and do another one. That's it. I just keep going. I don't make loads of money out of it.
So how about you, Junior? How do you feel, going back to what Jamila was saying about how you kind of got into the industry? Did you start from a child? You said that your parents were kind of involved in the kind of gospel or...
But it was really the music that they liked. They liked gospel, they liked jazz. We were music orientated. There used to be a band. Do you remember the band who did Skinhead Moonstone? Right, going all the way back. Do you remember them?
Yes, I was a skinhead.
Right.
That was the anthem.
Them boys used to
part of
play.
that scene.
Them boys used to do their rehearsals at my mum and dad's house upstairs. And that was Roy, and they were like a new band, new wave. They took on this whole thing. So I'm a kid about 5, 6, and I'm watching these bands, right, who were coming to the house and rehearsing, Simandu and people like that, right? So I was really, my brothers and sisters, I was growing up in music. My brothers had a band and they called themselves the 3 Crowns, put a record out, had a hit in Germany. They were on Palmer Records. Getting involved in understanding what this music business is. You're going out, my brothers are playing and supporting Georgie Fame. So that was my beginnings coming all the way up. Then when I got into music, it wasn't because of the fact of let's say people were going jazz funk. People were listening a lot to what America was doing. I wanted to do something completely different. I wanted to do something that went back to rock and roll, real rock and roll, Chuck Berry shit, the proper stuff. I wanted to make something that was identifiable as me, not me sounding like somebody else or doing something like somebody else. So when we came up with Mama Used to Say, it was a record that was clashing guitars. It was an open sounded thing. It sounded like a rock and roll record. And people didn't accept it until, it got closed down and became, what it became. But it was interesting because all it did for me, I was just a kid who loved music, every aspect of it, from the opera to the classics to, listening to a John Wayne constructed piece of music going along in the background, watching those stupid shoot 'em up movies. I just loved music. So long as it could move me, and I understood that it was about feeling and not seeing. I found that the seeing part of music was a killer. I want to see the artist, but I need to feel them. I didn't think people went out and Anita Baker, when she first dropped, it wasn't about seeing her, it was the voice and the way the voice and the music played together. If you go all the way back and you listen to Mahalia Jackson and you listen to Count Basie and bands like that who had great singers up front, it was how that music made you feel. And that was the driver, and still is the driver, to make music on a positive tip that makes you feel. And if I can continue to do that, then glory. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't see it as I don't, you know, people like a labor of love or anything. I just see it all as music, different colors and different views and perspectives. And if we can put that all together and mash it together and come up with something that makes people dance, makes people cry, makes people love, makes people move in some shape, form or fashion, then I've done my gig.
And how did you find that in school? You know, because a lot of the issues now that we're finding is that school, you know, Barrie mentioned it as well, that, you know, school is just as well. We found, even through a lot of our previous guests in hip hop, school in its element was a nightmare for a lot of us. It wasn't fulfilling, and it didn't necessarily support us in the way that it could have done.
I went to a grammar school, right? And when I first started the school, one of its kind of indoctrinations was, you know, you're a first year and you grab hold of them, you put their head down the toilet and you pull the chain. Now, this is like going back to Dickinson days, if you get what I'm saying, but that was still part of the process. The head guy come into your class. Yeah, he could come into your class and literally tell the teacher that you have to come out and you sweep the playground. Now, this was all part and parcel of the way that, like, that school was, because there was only maybe 3 or 4 black kids in the school. So it wasn't about them learning you, it was about you always learning them and having a better understanding of how they think, why they think that way, why they did those things. When the school amalgamated and became one school with 2 other schools, which took in more black pupils, then things started to get tricky, because now it was that the white guys started to feel intimidated towards the black guys. And the black guys weren't really intimidated. But what it was that they were coming out of a situation, coming into the first comprehensive school that had happened in the country. So there was a whole, again, different kind of mindset going to school. The way the prefects worked, the way that the whole system started to work. You could get caned. You would get 6 of the best, right? You would be told that you were black in no uncertain terms. You weren't in an environment where it was saying we are all inclusive and we are one. We understood where we were. So school wasn't a bind if you fully grasped the fact that you were never supposed to achieve in school. The emphasis was never for any black person to achieve in school. You would see your careers officer and he would always tell you, no disrespect, but to be a plumber, to be an electrician, to be anything, a mechanic, do anything with your hands, but do not use your brain. So you was in a place whereby you were being told to shut your brain off because that's not for you to use. We will tell you how to use it and do these menial jobs. Now, we turned around and we are the most in terms of going to university and going to college and stuff like this and being well-versed and well-educated. We have moved up that ladder very well. But what's happened is that the principles of what have been given to you in terms of being a black child is that you can succeed when you get into these places. And what is success? Is it really the materialistic things? Is that what success is? Who is giving you the premise for success? Right? You know, nobody's giving you the premise. Success is looking after your children, man. Success is being a great father, man. Success is loving your woman. Success is making sure that she understands that she's a queen. Success is making sure that your home is happy. Success is not having £1 million. Success is not driving the latest car. That's just the show. For me, there's 2 different things, and it's always worked for me. There's need and wants. I live in the needs. I don't live in the wants. The wants is a killer for most people out here, because it's always, I want this. But I live in the need. What do I need to keep me going, to make me and my kids have a good time, me and my grandkids have a good time? That's the need. Without the need, I can't do what I do, because the wants are rubbish. When I leave here, it's going to be me and me alone. It's not like if the houses and the cars and the clothes I will be able to take with me. It's complete fallacy, right?
You can't take it with you, can you?
Exactly. So while you're here, you're going to live it. You're going to enjoy those moments, and you're going to make sure they're moments that you can look back on with a smile and know that, like, oh boy, I did actually do that. You know, I did do Beverly Hills Cop. I did sell 150 million albums. I did do, you know, Scorsese movies. I did do a #1 with this movie, and what I want you to buy the albums and make sure that I can continue
Just
to
enjoy
do
the music you're making. It's like you like it,
enjoy the music.
Don't.
Exactly. It's not about. It's not about. I think we can get lost in this game, and we can put the game down to the finances that we all should make from it. When, in reality, what we need to understand is we need to try and make some records that work, that people want, right? And come from a perspective in terms of where we're writing from, that is from home. This is where we live.
Do you find also it's like a kind of inspiration as well? Because I find with music, it's very much, for me, escapism. And there's been times in journeys in your life by listening to certain artists, they kind of get you through that hard times in life and carry you on. So the fact that if you're making music and people are able to listen to it and to enjoy it, like you said, regardless just the award of getting the money out of it, for me, it was always about putting a tune out that people came to you and said, you know what, that tune you done, I love that tune. It kind of helped. I listen to it every morning. It helped me out through this time. I'm sure we can all point to an artist in our life that we can say that artist was very prominent in the times of when we were growing up or whatever, that helped us through certain
of artists back in the day. For me, back in then, I'd say like the early 70s, right, coming up into the mid 70s for me. Because it was around about the time of the Vietnam War, it was also around the time of civil rights. It was around the time of what was going on in Jamaica with Bustamante. It was about the time of what was going on in Cuba. So there was a lot of things happening that the writers were writing about and informing us about. So, you know, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, right? You know, you were being informed of various stuff and they were writing about it. People only now know about the Tuskegee thing. That shit's been going on. You know, Gil Scott made me aware of that back in the 70s, right? You know, if we were listening to the music that actually was creative and was informative, right? Then I think we would have taken this whole thing in a different way. They communicated to me. You know, when I heard Curtis Mayfield turn around and say, "We people who are darker than blue," and I started to understand where he was coming from in terms of his lyrics and stuff. You know, a change is gonna come. You know, you start to understand where these people are standing and what they're standing up for and what they're prepared to tell you under pressure, not to say the things that they're saying. Whereas today, for me, everybody wants to say exactly the same thing because they're striving to be, and I don't understand what you want to be because you're not being an artist. Barry's an artist. But it's the truth. Barry's an artist. Let's go with it. He knows that he can overdo it, but there's a time where you have to stop and you just say, you know what, this feels right, boss, let's go.
Do you think a bit about that, Donny? You know, you came from South London, you started off quite young.
Right.
I know your father was a pastor, so you come from the church element side of it. Did you find it was difficult struggling, you know, not just within the music, like what Junior was saying, in, you know, finding your way and how, but we all know that the industry was a cruel industry. It doesn't matter which way you look at it.
I mean, in the beginning, my parents didn't want me to have anything to do with it, you know what I mean? Like, because I grew up in, like, a gospel house, like, you know what I mean? And Dad was a preacher, Mum's and, you know what I mean, playing the tambourine and singing her head off, and prayer meeting on a Wednesday night, convention on a Saturday night, and it was that kind of vibe. And then I used to have to sneak and listen to secular music, do you know what I mean? And if my dad heard me listening to it, he'd come in the room, turn the radio off, or if I was playing any records in the house, he'd come in and pick them up off the turntable and break them, throw them in the dustbin. That's what it was like. So that kind of put fire in me to actually pursue that rather than the gospel thing. Do you know what I mean? That's what made me kind of pursue like secular music.
As a rebel, the rebel.
Yeah, that was the rebel in me. That's
your parents say, "Don't, you can't do something. You're gonna."
Yeah. I was like, really? I was like, what's so bad about it? It sounds dope, man. It sounds weird. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, in our house, we grew up listening to like Mahalia Jackson and Jim Reeves and Pat Boone and all that. And that was all right, but it weren't like, at the time on the radio, Stevie was playing, Marvin Gaye was playing, Donny Hathaway. I was listening to David Bowie. I was listening to Pigbag. I was listening to Wham, Human League. Do you know what I mean? Adam Man. I was listening to all kind of stuff. Shaka Khan, Michael Jackson, Prince. So I kind of wanted to pursue that. I wanted to pursue that kind of thing. And funny enough, what was it? I think I was 10 years old. I used to go to this little school in South London, Hillmead, and then this song called Mama Used to Say came out. This song called Mama Used to Say came out, and I was like, rah, this tune's wicked. I'm like, this is wicked. And then we had assembly at school, and Junior came in and gave a talk when I was 10 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, he came into my school, and he, you know what I mean, and he sort of said, yeah, I'm from the area, I'm from, you know, this, and I've managed to sort of make something of myself and get my music out there. And he was, you know, massive and touring around the world. And I thought, yeah, this is definitely what I want to do. And if he can do it, I can do it. So I went up to him at the end of assembly. I went up to him and said, yo, I make music, and one day, hopefully I'll see you out there. And that was like when I was 10 years old. So I kind of pursued it. And going back to what you were saying about the schools, not really backing the kids then, I had a really good music department at my school, so they could see that there was something in me that was like really loved music. So they used to let me bunk off like maths and French, and they used to lock me in this room in the music block and let me learn how to use. Those days the Fostex, the 4-track just came out, right. So I used to sit down and try and work out how to lay, because that was used to amaze me how like Stevie was all the vocals, he played all the instruments. I was like, how's he doing this, and how's Prince doing this? So they let me sort of, you know, do that. But yeah, then like what Junior was saying, there was used to go and see, I can't remember what they're called, but they used to go and tell you, or tell me that, yeah, Donny, you know, it's going to be really hard to get into
the careers.
Yeah, the career, yeah.
Oh, you can't get that job, but you're good at
Yeah. They used to tell me, oh, you know what, it's going to be really hard for you to get into the music industry, and we think you should be a mechanical engineer or maybe try DJing, or just something that was just not on the path I wanted to go on, do you know what I mean? Which, being me, I was like, right, I ain't listening to that. And then already when I was 10, Junior came into school and told me you can do it. So I was like, but if them man, they can do it, I'm going to still go down and pursue that route. So for me, it was that sort of gave me the driving force to sort of, you know, and my mum, she could see that I had a love for music. So she gave me, she sent me to piano lessons. I was having guitar lessons at school, drum lessons and stuff. Also playing in church, and yeah, just one thing led to another. The head of maths at my school was my next door neighbor. So he wouldn't let me bunk. So he used to carry me to school in the mornings and take me to school. And one day he said, you know what, I've got a friend and he's looking for a keyboard player for a band, and you should probably try an audition for them. So I was like the youngest member. I was like 16 then. I was 14, 15. And he said, yeah, join this, hang out with these guys. So I started doing pub gigs around South London with these guys. They were called, the lead singer was, his favorite song was a track called Compared to What by Aretha Franklin. So he named the band Compared to What. So we used to go around South London pubs doing like, you know, as compared to what, doing these shows. And that was sort of my, not my first sort of proper band thing. Was before that at school, going back, I used to be in a steel band. I was anything to do with music, I joined it.
So you're playing a little soca there?
Yeah, so I was in a band called Lambeth Youth. And Lambeth Youth now, we used to do Panorama. And Panorama took us to Ladbroke Grove. Do you know what I mean? So as a little kid, I went to Ladbroke Grove. I was like, rah, this place is dope, man. It coming like we're in LA or something, you know what I mean? Coming like we're in California.
And the mixtures, of course.
Yeah, and just the way the place was set up. And I was like, yo, I love this, man. And it's funny enough now, you know, years later, the lead singer from Compared to What went to school with a guy called Sean Oliver. And Sean Oliver was from Ladbroke Grove. And Sean Oliver wrote a song called Wishing Well with Terence Trent D'Arby.
Oh, yeah, I remember that song.
Right, and he also had a band called Old Land Montana. a lady called Misty Oldland and Kay Montana. They were from West London. So that's when I sort of emigrated over to West London as it was.
Did you get involved with Ron Tom around them times, or did that come later?
Ron didn't come till kind of a little bit later. Ron came because what it was is because I was from South London, I'm sort of bopping about West London now with Sean, doing little sessions for him, and you know, working with I was working with Nana Cherry, all those kind of people. Davina McCall, I used to write songs with Davina McCall.
Yeah.
And
That's a name.
And Bruce Smith from Pill. I used to sort of hang out with those guys, and what it was is one day I was in going back to my story is crazy. Old Montana did this show. We got invited to do a show at the WAG Club.
Barry used to have involvement.
Yeah, and that was when I was 16. So that was my introduction to Clubland. Now I was like, okay, so. And they were like, what's this little youth doing? I remember the bouncer came and he was watching me and he was like, right, this little youth's up here with this band here jamming hard and thing. So I said to him after, I said, yo, bro, do you think I can come back tomorrow and just come and rave? And he was like, yeah, man. So I used to be in the WAG every single night. As long as it was open, I was in there. And, you know, I got my, James Brown in, my hip hop in, my house, my reggae, everything. I was just taking it all in. And on the way to the WAG one night, there was a guy in the train station that I knew from South. And I said, right, I know your face. And he goes, yeah, I know you. And it was a guy called Oz. Yeah, and...
Rest in peace to Oz, man.
Yeah, because I used to remember him. He was so loud. This guy was so loud in Brixton. Yeah. And then one day we were just me and him on the platform, and we got talking, and then he was like, I goes, where you going? He goes, I'm going down West End. I was like, oh, yeah, come. And then it was a Wednesday night, and he was like, he had a link up with Barrie. I said, listen, man, I'm gonna go around the WAG. And he was like, no, we can't get in there, man, blah, blah, blah. And I got him in for free. So years later now, he's got this shop in Portobello Road in Ladbroke Grove called
Oz and G's.
Oz and G's. And I just happened to, because I was rolling with Sean, I just thought, you know, and I was... I
think that's where everyone met in the Oz and G's shop, because that's where I met Ron Tom.
That's where I met Ron Tom. Yeah. Right, so I'm getting to that, because I was Andrea Oliver's babysitter, because Sean Oliver, Sean Oliver, I used to look after her daughter, Makita, and Lily Allen as well. I used to change both their nappies, Lily Allen's nappies and Makita Oliver's nappies.
Okay, so...
And that's how I paid my rent. That's how we paid our rent.
Changing Lily Allen's nappies. That's a story.
Yeah, man. And then, took a walk down to Portobello one day, and then all of a sudden I walked past this thing, and I was like, wait, isn't that Oz? And he was like, yeah, we're setting up a shop. So that's when OG started. In Ladbroke Grove there, and then one day we were sitting in there, and I'm playing my demos now because Sean said to me one day, I really want to talk to you, because I was like, okay. So I had this meeting with him, and he was really giving it to me. He's like, right, I know you're in the band with my sister and all that, but you got to do it on your own. I was like, all right, mate, I'm getting there. I'm gonna do it on my own, but I love playing in the band. He's like, no, seriously, you got to do it on your own. And then 2 weeks later, he died. He passed away 2 weeks later after that conversation. And I was like, man, it hit me, man. I was like, what is going on here, man? Do you know what I mean? So, the story's crazy, but then that's sort of, I'm back in the shop now, sat down there, and all of a sudden, this guy walks in and he's like, yeah, I want to buy that jacket, and I love them trainers, and I'm listening.
Ron Tom. It's got to be Ron Tom.
I'm listening to the voice.
I'm going to take everything in here.
Yeah, I want all of that. I want all of them. I was like, hold on a minute, I'm listening to the voice, and I'm like, and then he was like, who's that? Who's this music? And they pointed to me, and he was like, what? That's you singing there? And I was like, yeah. Boom, boom, boom. So I'm listening to his voice. I'm going, you're that guy that's on the radio.
LWR, innit?
You're that voice. That's that voice. That's that. And then we put two and two together, and then the rest is history. He brought me up to his studio later on that night. I played him some tracks, and he was like, right, I know this other guy called Johnny Laws who runs Brixton Academy. And then we're in 1991 by then, and got signed in 91 to Island Records, and the album came out in 92. So that was my little journey there, really. A bit of a crazy one, but yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people was involved with one time, but he knew his stuff. He definitely knew it, even if it was before his.
Oh yeah, and then he gave me like, oh man, I learned so much from his record collection. His record collection is serious, man. So
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
LWR, that was a radio station, definitely to be listening to.
London
so Rosita, I
Weekend.
can see in your face as well that half the people that Donny just mentioned, it was like your eyes were up, going up. Like, I remember, I used to work with them. I remember them.
I'm probably a little bit younger. Yeah, I'm probably a little bit younger than all of you guys. So when Donny's talking about, you know, I started secondary school in 1988. So I'm probably slightly a generation younger than you guys. But just a bit about my background. Like I said, my dad was a musician. I didn't come from such a strict, you know, church. You know, my mum is a bit of an ex-hippie, even though she was English. She grew up in Africa, in Ghana. We're a fantastic artist. So I grew up with a lot of African music, a lot of things like Salif Keita, Fela Kuti, stuff like that. And then with my dad, you know, being a real pan man, you know, that was the rebel music in Trinidad, you know, in the 40s, 50s and 60s. So coming over here, he was like a bohemian.
Am I hearing another, just to wind up, Jamila, am I hearing another Trinity in the house? Like, come on, Trinidad here.
So I really grew up in a musical family. You know, there was always, you know, musicians in my house, jamming, you know, the whole, you know, always on All Saints Road. And my dad was, like I said, my dad was a real pan man. He was a part of the Mangrove, a fantastic tenor pan player. So growing up, music was really in my blood. So like I said, especially the steel pan and a lot of jazz as well, because his generation, people like Russell Henderson, started the Annual Carnival with his great friends and would be, you know, always playing music, etc. We used to go to Saint-Tropez when I was a toddler quite a lot, and they would busk on the beach, play pan, and we'd be out there. So that was a lot of my background. And then, just discovered that I had, you know, a gift for singing, if you like. I really enjoyed singing. My granny used to sing a lot in church in Trinidad. So through primary school, you know, being in the playground, singing Whitney Houston, friends and stuff like that. And it was when I started secondary school, I actually went to school in Fulham, to a school called Lady Margaret's. I learned a bit of saxophone. Wasn't playing pan at that time. Played that a bit later on, took up the bass. Singing with friends, and then I linked up with MCD, who you guys might know, and started singing.
Definitely. MCD was number one.
Started singing a lot of books and stuff on a lot of his records, and I started working at Monroe Studios on the Holloway Road. A guy called Hank, so he used to do London Posse, Black Twang, people like that. So I ended up singing quite a lot of hooks for London Posse and Black Twang. And then I actually sung on Rodney P. I don't know if you lot know the Nice Up. I don't know if any of you lot know one of Rodney P. Tunes, the Nice Up. So I used to do quite a lot of hook singing on stuff like that. And then I worked with people like Ignorance, did quite a lot of remixes for people like that. I did a bit of rapping myself, did a couple of SWV bits. So just singing. Then I joined a group. I went to the Brits, which is a school here. It was like a musical, like a fame kind of school in Selhurst. It was quite a long way from where I lived. So I wasn't there that much, but linked up with another fellow half Trini, girl called Jade Richardson and Fiona Prince, and another friend of mine.
Wow.
We formed a group. Yeah, we worked with Donny, worked with lots of people. But we formed a group, and DJ Elaine kind of took us under her wing when she was at EMI, and she did like an album. So we had a lot of fun touring up and down the country with other young artists. So that was fun. Then we went out to the States for a while. So it was we had quite a lot of fun, did quite a lot of performances up and down the country. I was still doing my own stuff. Anyway, after that group kind of petered out, I ended up linking up with Sweetie Irie. Although we all know him for his fantastic reggae, you know, contributions, he's actually he was really in love with my voice and jazz music particularly. And we put like a jazz album together. So that was really
that's interesting. So a lot of people know Sweetie Irie just for reggae and Joe 90 and General Levy and all them lot. Exactly. I didn't know. So that's something new.
Yeah, we put he had the studio up in Shepherd's Bush, and we spent a good time in there. And it was we got big orchestras in, a lot of strings, and actually got steel pan. My dad played because my dad was very jazz orientated in his melodies, with the pan, steel pan being a great instrument for that kind of style and sound. So we did that, and then I linked up with Carl McIntosh from Loose Ends, and he really took me under his wing. and mentored me a lot, and we did lots of music together over the years. And I even did a duet with Karen Wheeler, which was fantastic. That was really cool. And he took some of my stuff out to America and got a lot of good feedback out there when he was living in Atlanta. Yeah, but I've just always loved singing. I mean, I want to get back into doing, getting back behind the mic. I started producing my own stuff a couple of years ago, where I was incorporating a lot of African drums, using different notes, chakra notes, getting into that side of things and incorporating some different elements there with that. But then I started getting into filmmaking, which is kind of, still creative, and a lot of stuff around this area. I don't know if you guys know Selwyn Baptiste's son.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Selwyn used to be used to run the carnival.
Yeah.
And so basically he was making a documentary with the BBC about who started the Notting Hill Carnival, etc. And I kind of co-produced that with him. Then got into a bit of filmmaking, started on the small acting with Steve McQueen a bit. But yeah, loads of stuff. I lived out in LA for a while, singing out there back in the early 2000s. Did a track with Snoop Dogg, which was quite fun. Loads of stuff. I used to do quite a lot of stuff at Rotation with Femi as well. So I used to sometimes do a bit of mic, a bit of MCing, and travelled around. I went to Ireland with Rotation a couple of times and did a few gigs out there. Yeah, and now I've actually got a restaurant on the Portobello Road called Portobello Shack, even though it's temporarily called Hibiscus.
Okay, so you're getting it back?
But yeah, I'm getting it back. The Shack is coming back very soon. But it's been really interesting. I mean, I always like to, I think creativity, we are creators, whether it's through music, whether it's food, whether it's art, directing, just keeping that God energy flowing, very important for me. And so thank you for inviting me on the panel today.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. There's a lot. See, it's funny, like Jamila was saying, is that you can live in Ladbroke Grove and see people every day walking past them or going, like you said, in a restaurant, and no one even knows what the others are up to. And it's there, out there still. And you're like, oh, that person used to do music. And you're like, really? So it's like you might not have crossed paths, or you did, but you just didn't know who you were at the time, because everyone was kind of living this journey of being young and growing up.
Of course.
So maybe we're going to open this up a bit now. So everyone's kind of given a little brief about where they kind of went and how they grew. But I just want to say, so within the industry itself, because we're now talking about, the whole soul, let's go back to more of the scene of the industry of the soul, the way it kind of grew in the clubs. When you guys first started out, did you find that, you went, because I know a lot of you went mainstream, like Junior said himself, obviously he had to hit Top Tens and Bonnie and probably all of you. Did you find the transition of going from, jamming in clubs and MCing, and just doing it, like, as you kind of said, for the fun of it, and then going into the transition of mainstream where it had to be more like a business and it became very serious? Did you find that transition hard? Did you find yourself at a peak where you thought, I don't like the business and I wanted to get out? Because a lot of people, they say, why did you stop?
Well, I had the band Dinah Band of Brothers. We went our own separate ways, and I was in Japan with Jazzy B. He goes, let's go back and do a track with you and Dinah. I said, all right. It weren't great, but we got a record off the back of it. And then I went away and recorded Master Plan, which for me was quite commercial, but not a pop record. Anyway, somehow it became a big hit. I'm going out and they're playing it everywhere. But then they wanted me to make that same record over and over again, and I couldn't do it. I said, I've done that. And they said, well, wait, you do it again. I said, I can't. I had so much money out of it, I didn't know what to do. My first PRS check, I phoned them up and said, I think you made a mistake. I was scared to cash it. No, it was such a, and it wasn't even a big hit. We made so much money.
Well, those royalties.
Yeah, just on PRS. But I hated it. My A&R member's Pete Toll, and I just didn't get on with him.
Yeah.
You've hired me to do a job because you like what I do, then you're telling me what to do. Why don't you go and do it yourself? Which is what I said. I done one album, I left the record deal, and the next album I'd done for Japan who paid me much more money, just do the bank at a bank called Children of Judah, who paid me a fortune to make an album, which cost me nothing to make. I learned what I was by being signed to a major. I learned how it all works. I knew what I hired everything when I had to deal. I hired all the instruments and tested them all out, what they did. So when I went and done an album, when I was signed, the album cost £200,000. When I done my own album, it cost me £5,000. I learned at their expense, and I've done it on my own ever since. So I'm so much happier.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I did make a lot of money out of a record that wasn't even a big hit to keep me guiding until now on royalties, on PRS royalties.
Wow.
So, and how I got a record, I don't know. I'm not a musician even. I play percussion, but I'm no percussionist. I didn't fuss with it. The point was, with my band, we played at the Wagon on Wednesday night, and everybody's going to see us. So we became a social event. Not we were a great band, we didn't even rehearse properly. We became a social event. So we were trying to expect everyone to sign us, not because we were good, because we were attracted to the public. But then I learned how to do it all at their expense.
Yeah, but it's your energy. Obviously, it's your energy that gets you through, because there's something, people don't invest unless they think that you're worth investing in.
What it is, when an opportunity arises, I will take it. I know how to take it. I know I pick up the ball and run with it.
Yeah.
I will hustle it to the last bit. I will take the money and run.
Do you think that's based on instinct, or do you think it's based on you when you get your, you get your hands on something, you think, I've got to finish it?
No, I don't know that. I know I like it. I know I'm satisfied. I always know when I'm finished. I say if I'm finished now. I know when to. For me, music or mixing, etc., is about taking things out. I like to work on the bare minimum, so there's loads of space. You can hear every instrument. And I understand, right, I can hear everything now. I'm happy.
Yeah.
But one thing, what is it with West Indian parents and Pat Boone?
It goes back.
Love it. They love Pat Boone.
When I was a kid, I had a lot of black friends, right?
Yeah, they go.
Just the way it was. And all their parents would play Pat Boone. I just didn't get it.
Yeah, and even now in Jamaica, they play a lot of Celine Dion. They love.
Yeah, but
Celine.
anything is like,
That's
whatever's
like
the number one as well in Jamaica or anyway, the Caribbean, it's like, okay, everybody sings it and make a cover version. And then
Come to England and appropriate our pop records.
Right, exactly.
it gets played on the radio, and then they get to learn that one song, like Whitney Houston or whoever gets number one, and then it's like singing it.
But you know what irritated me? When I went to Jamaica, and it was the first time I'd actually gone, and my mum hadn't been back since she was 8 when she left Jamaica. Didn't get back until she was in her 40s. So it was a really big thing for us to go and explore, and also find my grandfather's side of the family. And we've met them, and it was a whole journey, and that's another story for another day. There's so many things that were just not funny, but actually ended up being hilarious in one sense. But I remember my first cousin. He was probably a few years younger than me, and he was saying on his mum and my other uncles and aunties, they're very religious. So one thing I couldn't understand in Jamaica, every corner we were in, where were we now? Kingston, St. Catherine's. So we're in the residential part, and every single part of the corner of each block has a church.
Yeah.
Right?
Jamaica's got the most churches per square meter than any other country.
Parishes, isn't it, everywhere?
Parishes, and that amazed me in itself. That was one thing. Then my cousin said to his mum, my aunt, I'd like to take Jamie to Asylum in Kingston. So that's a club in Kingston. And I was so excited. I said, yeah, I'm gonna touch down in a club in Kingston, go back home and tell people, I've been to Asylum. Yeah. Anyway, we got in there, and first of all, you had all the reggae and I want to say soul. They played a soca jam in there. That was it. You knew I was English because I was running down all over the place in there with this soca jam, winding up whatever I could wind up in my body. That was it. I was representing Trinidad. No, I'm joking. And anyway, and then to my horror, they spent about another half an hour with Madonna.
Yep.
And she had the cowboy hat on. What's that song she had? The cowboy.
I like that.
Which one was that again?
I like it.
And then Papa don't breathe.
Yeah.
Frankie.
I'm in
You
the
know,
body.
whatever, and then you went to proper country and western song, singers.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I
country
looked at
and
my-
western, I can relate to though. Some of the country and western you can kind of relate to.
I
Yeah,
can
we used
relate
to-
it. But my point is that not just country and western, we had pop, we had everything from England coming through. But my point I looked at all the Jamaicans in that club, and they were singing their heart out, and they were dancing their dance, and I'm the only one who was frowning in there, who was cussing. So my cousin said to me, hush, 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 man, just do your thing, man, hush, 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 while I'm cussing. And I said to him, I didn't come fly 3,000 miles to get away from pop in England, to come to Jamaica to listen to it in the club. It don't make no sense to me. I was cussing.
And they always
And he
end the
loved it.
night with pop music as well. It's like
Yeah.
it's their
Always.
ending. Yeah,
Yeah.
to send you on your way. You
Yeah,
always
send you
end with it.
pop. Yep.
And like we're like thinking we're cool going to Jamaica. Yeah, I want some hardback dance or whatever. And the next minute you're seeing the same hardback dancers that are out there doing whatever, dancing to the pop music that you're like. But it's a
very
tradition.
strange.
It's a tradition that's been going for years, though, hasn't it? Really.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
like the
compliment to
internet.
music. They've got a different ear, and they have a greater appreciation. I think the thing I don't like about pop is that it's not transparent in the sense that the people who view pop and enjoy pop, the industry, I should say, they don't give soul or rare groove or reggae. They don't apply that same opening
Same
to
energy.
and same energy to supporting and promoting this type of our type of music. Well, I'd say
Well,
it's universal music, but they don't support it in the same format. This is what I don't like. It's very biased
Yeah.
in the pop world.
Yeah, because what happened to me was I was doing my thing, and obviously I was one of the last artists they sort of let creatively do what they want. You know what I mean? But I noticed that started to change a little bit because they started to want to put me with this producer, put me with that producer, and then one day they put me with Stock Aitken and Waterman. Yeah.
Oh shit.
And I went in there. I sat in the session and I was listening to this music. And I was like, I'm not singing on this. I can't see. I don't feel it. You know what I mean? And when the record company was behind it, like, yeah, Donnie, this would be great for you to do, and da 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 da. And then the next day I phoned in sick and I didn't go in, man. I was like, I'm not doing it. I was like, I don't feel well today. I'm not finishing that song. And then they
Do you
tried to
find
get
that the radio stations are kind of work co-side with them anyway, in the sense that when you've got your A list, your B list, your C list, they always the radio stations start telling you, oh, if you mix it a bit like this, then we can play it, and then you find yourself struggling. Once you get that hit, it's like trying to maintain that A, B, C.
Yeah, they watered down a lot of the stuff because the actual Love Makes the World Go Round that came out was watered down version for me. It had a lot more soul. The demo, the original thing that I sort of submitted had way more soul than what everybody knows, the song everybody knows, you know what I mean? They sent me to LA, I had to work with this producer over there, and he basically took my drums off and changed everything. It just watered it down. It just sounded like cat to me, but I thought, I hate this. So when it was going up the chart and everyone was raving about it, Radio 1 was playing it, I actually wasn't that happy. I didn't want to listen to it. I used to hate it actually. So I found that's the part of the industry I didn't like, where they started to water down my stuff and take the soul out of it, and then they wanted me to be the lead singer of the Fine Young Cannibals as well. And I refused that as well. So I'm going to be peed off for the rest of my life if I do that. So So it was just that sort of thing, not letting me be sort of artistically in control of what I'm trying to do.
What makes artists themselves. I mean, you find that even with the jazz, neo soul, it's all the same thing. If you listen to Capital and if you listen to Capital One, all you ever hear is the same. It's like it's on a tape reel. It's the same current pop music, or don't get me wrong, it's
about 5 songs they play over and over.
It's so repetitive.
On rotation, man.
It's often like that. It's that they've always played music on rotation, but in the 70s, for example, the quality of pop music, even if you didn't like it, was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was quality music. They told you stories.
Yeah.
But now there's no substance. Since kids are born in the 60s, grew up in the 70s, the innovators of the 80s, and there's no lines after that. It becomes repetitive.
And you know who I found. You know what was the biggest shock for us back in the 60s? was, been around the world and until we didn't know who she was until it came out. So we went into school when this song came out, and we were running and we were singing this song. We loved it, and we gave it all our approval. And then we didn't see the video of the person. They usually, the record company, puts out the video. They held it back for ages. And then I think it was a Monday. I can't remember what Monday it was. And we were singing Boomtown Rats, we don't like Mondays, we want to show. It's going to be our mantras when we were
Tell me why.
What was the school one? We don't need no education.
All that music was dope though, man. All that music.
I love all that, the new wave stuff as well.
All that comes back to what I was saying originally, which is you felt it.
Yeah.
You felt it. You didn't have to, as you were saying about, being around the world, right? You were feeling that tune before you saw her. You didn't have to see her to feel the tune.
No.
What happened?
When we saw Lisa Stansfield, we were like, oh my God. And then what happened after that?
You remember Roadblock? They did the same thing. Stockake in a Woman, they put out a tune and made it come into the country through America. And everybody thought Roadblock was an American record. Went absolutely crazy. And then as soon as they found out Stockake in a Waterman, everybody went, oh my God, I can't believe it. But what I'm saying is that you felt it. I didn't, regardless of what I felt, people felt those tunes. And they didn't see a face to make them feel those tunes. So something happened when it became that you had to see the face in a video opposed to actually going to see them live that changed music. That changed what it was about.
Radio
Yeah.
Video killed the radio
Killed
stuff.
the radio
It
stuff.
did. It really did.
And also going back to what you were saying, Jamila, about taking it back to Jamaica, that you can say that they always play their pop tunes that you got fed up of, but like what Junior was saying is that they were feeling it, because those people didn't necessarily know who the hell sang that song, what they looked like. They didn't care whether they're black, white, or orange. But the difference is that they will be listening to their hard black music, and then they will be liking some of the pop, whatever you want. It might have been pop to us because it came from the UK, but when it was going to Jamaica and to the Caribbean, it wasn't pop, because they didn't have no pop chart like what we had. They heard a tune and they liked it regardless of what colour or whatever you were. It was the UK and America that put all this colour thing on things and music, because when you were sharing music back in the days, there weren't no television, this and that, going way back. People would have the vinyl, and you have a name on the vinyl. There wasn't a colour. And that was the days of people loving music for the music and not for what you're telling people what they should look like or how they should be.
Or how they should sound.
Yeah.
But that's why the music.
But I was just going to say also, just people like Lisa Santel, when she started coming through, it made our generation, who are late 40s, 50s, or just over 50s, more aware of soul in what you call out of London. So you got the soul in Manchester, you got the soul in Leeds.
Northern soul.
Northern soul. That's the word I was looking for. And that kind of linked down when we merged and linked and had that awareness, then you have a greater appreciation of people outside of London. Yes, we've got the West London, we've got the South London, we've got all of those things, but oh my goodness, I mean, it's quite naive to think that, but there's people with an appreciation, white and black, or whatever color you are, who understood and loved the vibration of music.
But that was also because, Jamila, because in the north, if you're going up north now, it was even harder for those artists to make it or break it.
Who's that band that sang You To Me Are Everything, the sweetest song that I can sing?
The Real Thing.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, they're from up north, right?
Right, they're from Liverpool.
They're from Liverpool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought that was an American record. I was shocked when I found out those guys.
They did well. They did well. I mean, like if you break it down and you go back even. Do you remember Sad Sweet Dreamer?
Yeah, I still play it now. When I play it, I still play that. Right
now, Barry, people don't even remember them boys and what they were doing before. Come on, before, right? Us, before we came along, before the early 80s, those kids were kicking it before The Real Thing as well. Yeah. But you don't know anything about them. So because you don't know, you don't understand the history of the music, right? You get what I'm saying? If you're if you're to understand a particular style of music, right, then you must know something about it, where its origins is. And if you're going to deal with people say pop music, pop was shortened for popular.
Yeah.
Now you get what I'm saying. So we use pop in the wrong way because most artists want to be popular, i.e., they want their music to sell.
That's it.
Right. So we all want to be popular. Nobody wants to be an obscure musician unless that's his choosing. Right. But most people, they want to go in there and make a splash. They want to be popular. Right. But if you term it the way that it's been termed, it's pop music. What defines pop music?
I hate the term urban. I really hate that term. It does my head in.
Well, what does urban actually mean?
Even when people say the difference of underground, sometimes for me as well, it's like, what is popular that you've sold records? What makes music to sell it? And if you're just gonna busk and do whatever, and then you shouldn't be trying to make vinyl or whatever anyway, because otherwise you're not gonna make any money. And I always had this thing in my head when people used to always say pop music, some people would snub you just because you became popular or you sold records. Some people struggle to sell, not all, some people may not have wanted to be popular, I don't know. But I always find that whole thing about whether something's popular, as Junior said, and you're calling it pop, because it's sold records. Because in America, when people sell, this is why the difference of America, how American artists make it. And people say, why do they have such longevity and things? And a lot of the time it is because of that, because an artist in America sells records, they just sell records and they become millionaires. And obviously there are kind of pop elements to it, but you can just really tell the difference, right? Of how they're kind of making music. Whereas in the UK, if you make tunes and you sell the records and you make sales, then you're all of a sudden you're a pop artist. And then people want to snub you and put you down and say, oh, you're just a sellout, or because you sold records.
I'd like to say thank you both for having me on the show today, and I've really enjoyed it. I'd like to say the new single is out. It's called Step Up. It features Paulette, Taja, and a new dancehall queen called Pinky Famous. It will be up for downloads, which it is at the present moment in time, right? And with a exclusive dub album attached to it, only for those who come to the website. And the website is juniorgiscombe.co.uk. And hopefully you'll see us, the British Collective, out on the road later this year. If not, it will be next year.
British Collective.
And hopefully next year things will open up a lot more and we'll all see one another again and be able to engage and have a good time. I can't get back on stage. So listen, you take care, right? And enjoy the rest of the evening.
Love.
So I want to say a big thank you to Junior Giscombe for being on the show. And then see you on the other side. Take care and be safe.
Bless.
Blessings.
Okay, so Barrie, would you like to shout out?
Well, yeah, it's running in my stuff.
Yeah.
My clothes, my records, my book. I've only got one book out. Next one is I haven't even printed it yet. My book. You go to my
What's the name of your book?
The first one. This was not part of the master plan.
The master plan. Very good book, by the way. I've started to read it. Excellent book. So go out there and get it if you haven't.
The second one's called Outside the Lines, which I haven't finished. But it's finished. So I just can't be bothered to get it printed. I will do. But they're my life story. The first one gives you sort of an overall picture of me growing up in London. The second one goes into the details, and it's quite shocking, I've been told. So all that is available on www.sharpeye.london. It's SHARPEYE.London.
Brilliant.
And by the way, after my clothes, I didn't say I'm the original designer of the Duff of St George.
Yes.
Oh, are you?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. It's my company. I created it, and I was one of the 4 designers.
I got one of your jackets.
Thank you. Well, thank you for letting us know that, because we would definitely promote that. Even the information that we're
And
saying.
when we do the fashion, we can bring you back on the show, actually, because we will be covering fashion and things like that. So it'd be great to have you back on. And I know you've done a lot in the Grove as well. So, Danny.
Duff started in the Grove.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'd definitely love to have you back on telling us about the
having me.
Yeah, so Donny.
Yeah, so Donny.
Can I just say, Donny? Sorry, can I just say, love your latest tune. I was listening to that last night. No, you can say it.
Which one? I put out three EPs during the lockdown. During the 2 lockdowns, I've dropped about 3 EPs. Isolation, Social Distance, and Unbreakable 3. So Unbreakable 2.
Unbreakable 2, yeah.
Yeah, Unbreakable.
I always remember my
Yeah,
little brother, before, we were still trying to remember what video he performed in of yours to find it.
Your little brother was in Peace of the World. Peace in the World.
Piece of the World, thank you for that.
Peace in the World. Yeah, 1992 Island Records. They own the masters. Anytime I play it, they flag me on Facebook, so I can't play it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So and that's what happens when you sign to a major label. They own all the masters that, because you signed to them. Wow. So yeah, when you sort of try and sort of play your stuff on social media, they kind of come down on you like a ton of bricks. You're playing your own music. So that's why I've gone independent and I do my own thing, and you can buy all my music on donmusic.co.uk. You can find all of my catalogue on there. I try and bypass your iTunes and your Spotify's where I can. So, and yeah, just look out for the British Collective. We've got a couple of new singles dropping, and a whole bunch of new music. I've got a new EP with Rick Clark coming out as well. Which is
the British Collective, just so for the younger viewers to know who they are. So
the British Collective is myself, it's Junior Giscombe, it's Omar, it's Noel McCoy, and it's a guy called Lee John from Imagination now and again when he's around. And we are the British Collective, and we've come together as a sort of man band, not a boy band, man band.
Man band.
And yeah, and just try and sort of, the reason why I got the British Collective together is because the generations before us don't realize that we existed, because there's a lot of people don't know about Omar even. Like, you talk to some kids about Omar, they're like, who's that? So I thought, when we came out, there was no social media. So I thought, get together while there's social media, people can see who we are, it shines a light on what's happening. I mean, it goes all the way back to the Equals, if you want to sort of trace back where, British Soul started and all that. It was like the Equals were around the same time as the Beatles were around. There was a black group called the Equals with like Eddie Grant and all that. So it's just kind of just sort of trying to shine a light on sort of where UK Soul started, really. So that's
what
the
we're
reason.
Doing.
Yeah, that's the reason why we started the British Collective. So look out for us anyway. And thanks for having me on the shows.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. It's always lovely to see you.
We'll have to, sorry to cut you. We'll have to get you back on the show with all of you then.
Yes, definitely, yeah. Definitely.
And then that can highlight, because at least we can see the visual.
Yeah, definitely. Nice. And everybody, all of us.
Promote your new stuff so the younger generation can see how individually you all were artists back in the days, and how you become now. So Rosita, would you like to do a shout out?
I would just like to shout out everyone who's looking forward to the new freedoms that we're all going to find, in the near future. I feel like the whole world.
Got to have a jab though. Got to have a jab. You won't be free unless you've got a jab.
Well, listen, I probably won't be free for a long time then.
I honestly feel like we're moving into a whole new
free anyway. So what difference does it make?
I feel like we've had thousands of years of quite draconian, rigid oppression, and I feel like we're moving into the age of Aquarius now, and there's going to be a lot of freedoms, and I'm sure music will also benefit, our creative expressions, etc. And I think we're at the end of an era now, which is why a lot of these, very inorganic entities are grabbing on for dear life as much as they can. You're seeing so much oppression at the moment, and so much, so much stifling. And I feel like very soon we're going to be moving into a fantastic new age, and I believe music, new creativity is going to benefit a lot.
Well, they say with the COVID, the truth has come out. It's a time of truth, haven't they? They said definitely a time of truth. The amount of relationships that are broken up and things.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
due to COVID, the truth has come out, mate.
We've got Portobello Shack, which has been, something I've been working hard on for the last few years, and we're doing events. Portobello Shack have been promoting lots of different things. We're doing a lot of supporting the Notting Hill Carnival. Coming up, a lot of things with a lot of local elders as well. Look out for Portobello Shack summer 2021.
And did you hear that? They will be back. Yeah, they'll be back. So whoever thought they weren't, they are coming back.
We're back,
right?
And we will be back. And we will be back, innit, Yinks?
Yeah, 100%. So, as you can see, we had some brilliant legends on the show. Maybe we're going to another show just to develop more into the areas, because they've been in the game such a long time. You cannot cover it in such a short time. So it'd be lovely to get them back on, and we'll kind of elaborate a bit more on their progressions. So I just want to say a big thank you to Barrie Sharpe for coming on the show. Much respect for sharing your story with us, and hopefully we'll hear a bit more about your books and your passion. Big thank you to Donnie, as always, been in the game a long time with Donnie, for coming on the show, and hopefully you'll come back and tell us a bit about the British Collective. Rosita, lovely to have you on the show. Thank you, Feminine Side, coming out there and representing. Everyone knows her from Paulette Shack, and she's a fighter. And I'm just telling you, she's coming back. So all you there sitting dogs, coming back, and we're behind her. And we got Jamila, my sister, as always.
As always, my darling.
Like to say anything before we end the show?
Yeah, I just want to say that we always appreciate the people who come on. The beautiful creativity, the beautiful minds, the intelligence. We appreciate your struggle. We appreciate your support. Moving forward, let's move forward collectively. And the first thing that I want from everybody is to see and smell and feel the love.
Yeah, for real.
Thank you for that. And thank you for all your support, for following us. We're slowly growing, but you know what? The slower, as we know about the commercial side of things, it doesn't stay long term. So we don't mind. Thank you for those who are supporting us, and we're progressing and we're moving and we're telling our stories, and that's what it's all about. So I want to say a big bye to everybody, and hopefully we will see you all in human on the other side. But for now, it's virtual, so we're making the best of it. But thank you. So peace and love to everybody, and thank you for coming on the show.
Peace.
Next generation of the Mangrove 9. See you on the next episode.
Watch out for us. Take care.
Bye.
Good
Night,
night.
That's DupaSkank. Give me that.